What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV, back here for another episode of the 5 Takeaways, where we're going to take a look at the 2-1 win over Fulham at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium and see what 5 things we can take away from the game. And the first one we're going to look at is impressive debutants.
Yeah, so Richarlison and Longley both making their first starts in a Tottenham show in competitive football, and they both really impressed during the 90 minutes. Richarlison himself making 4 key passes, having 3 shots with 1 on target, completing 1 dribble, but off the ball as well, 4 tackles, which is second on the pitch, and 1 interception as well. Really having a great day. And Longley as well, making 1 tackle, 3 clearances, 1 accurate cross as well, and had a 90% passing accuracy. And him as well, with his incisive passing, really did set Tottenham off on a few attacks and create some chances. So both debutants impressing, and hopefully Conte will trust them more to start games more often now.
Yeah, I think after their first games, I don't think the trust was ever an issue with Richarlison, but I think it was with Longley. And after him coming in for that game yesterday, I think it will be resulting in more trust from him. And I think you could tell by Conte's comments after the game in the interviews and the press conference how impressed he actually was with Longley, and I think we all were, to be honest, and it gave us such a good base at the back to build from. And Richarlison was just a live wire throughout, absolutely just going at it, full guns blazing for 90 minutes. So that's exactly what we want to see from our debutants, because we didn't see that last week with Bissouma. So I think Bissouma is going to have some time to get integrated with everything, but it's great to see that Longley and Richarlison are both integrated already.
Definitely.
But let's move on to number 2, and that is mixed day out wide.
Yeah, so the wing-backs did well in parts, but also didn't do so well in other parts, and I'll go through it. In terms of statistically anyway. Ryan Sessegnon first. Obviously, he got an assist for Harry Kane's goal, and albeit was quite a big threat throughout, he actually had 6 shots, which was more than any other player on the pitch yesterday. 2 on target, had 1 key pass, but he did have 5 crosses, with 0 of those crosses being accurate. He had made 3 tackles, and he won 3 of his 6 duels defensively. So decent day defensively. Going forward, obviously did get an assist and had some shots, which is really good, but crossing wise definitely needs some work on that. Emerson, on the other hand, had 6 crosses, 3 of them being accurate, but he didn't have any key passes, but he did have 2 dribbles, which is more than Sessegnon. Defensively, he made 3 tackles as well and won 6 of his 7 duels, so really good defensively from Emerson, but didn't really make any key passes and didn't have any shots on goal either, which needs to work on. So I think all in all, good displays from the wing backs, but definitely things to work on moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you're getting used to seeing Perisic week in, week out, there's always going to be stuff to work on when you're looking at the wide players. But I think yesterday, Sessegnon grew into the game as the game wore on, grew in influence. And Emerson, we all know that he lacks a bit going forward, but he makes up of what he lacks going forward in defensive displays, in my opinion. And I don't think we've got a wing back that can defend as well as Emerson, and I include Perisic and all the wing backs we have in that. So I think when like this weekend, for example, when we come up against Man City, Emerson is going to be invaluable in that game. But I think when we're playing against teams like Fulham and where we're asked to attack more, then maybe we need to come up with a different option. But I think Emerson is playing well at the moment, and I think that maybe he's getting a bit more heat than he might deserve. These performances might be deserving. For Sessegnon on the other side, and on the other hand, I think that I liked his display yesterday, but obviously when you've got Perisic waiting in the wings, you probably need to do better.
Yeah, but still pretty good.
Yeah. Let's move on to number 3, and that is frontline link-up.
Yeah, and this is the front 3, Kane, Son and Richarlison. Obviously, Richarlison new to that front 3 link-up, although he's had spells of cameo appearances of 20 minutes or so. This was his first starting with Kane and Son. They all 3 linked up really well. Son had 5 key passes, Richarlison 4, and Kane 3 key passes. So they were really setting up shooting opportunities at will together. In terms of shots, Son had 4, Richarlison and Kane had 3 each. And they really did link up well. Richarlison obviously getting an assist, and all 3 of them were laying on chances, were having chances for themselves, and they'll all be disappointed that they didn't have more goals between them, to be honest. But all three of them together looked like a really good partnership.
Yeah, really did, and the link-up play between all of them was there for everyone to see. Kane obviously being the hub of that, Richarlison teeing up Sonny at times, Richarlison obviously assisting Højbjerg. Obviously he's not part of the attacking line, but I think all three of them seem to be working really well as a cohesive unit, and throw Kulusevski into the mix as well. He's no different. He also works really well with them as a cohesive unit, so it's great to see. And it makes us just so dangerous in games, even games where we're not winning. You know, we can pop up with a goal at any time, and you couldn't say that maybe under previous regimes. So it's really good to see the attacking line really getting to grips with what Conte wants to do and what the fans want to see. Moving on to the fourth takeaway, and that is progressive passing.
Yeah, and this seemed to be Tottenham's most progressive performance of the season so far, and maybe it's because of the changes he made at the back and stuff like that. But in terms of progressive passes, this is the most progressive passes we made in a match this season in 47. We made more passes in the final into the final third than any game. We made more passes into the penalty area than any game this season as well. And this was 52% possession, which is a bit even less, 10% less than we had at West Ham. So definitely making more out of the possession. And what do you put that down to? Do you put that down to the fact that we had those players like Romero and Longley at the back line, and it made it easier to progress up the pitch? Or was it a change of approach? Whatever you put it down to was definitely more progressive.
Yeah, I put it down to the solid base and aggressive and ball-playing base that we did have in Romero, Dyer and Longley, because all of them performed really well in terms of playing out the back. Longley and Dyer really were performing well with their long balls. Romero was playing well with his dinks, trying to beat that Fulham press. So I think that's what I put it down to mainly. And I think you can just see, like, it just makes the world of difference when we've got three defenders at the back that are all comfortable on the ball. Because when we have Sanchez on there, like I've said before, I mean, the whole team are just trying to cover for him all the time. And when he is on the ball, we lose it more times than not, or he just plays it safe. But when you've got Romero, Dyer and Longley all trying to pass it forward and really good, performing really well at it, then it makes the world of difference. And I think that's what we saw yesterday.
Yeah, and also having Bentancur back in the side probably helped with that as well. Yeah. So it was really good display from Spurs, and hopefully there's more to come.
Last but not least, the fifth and final takeaway, and this is the best since Poch.
Yeah, so in terms of our starts of the season after 6 games, 4 wins and 2 draws, which is our best start to a season after 6 games since 2016-17 under peak Pochettino, where we finished second with 86 points. So really, really positive results. And finally, we have a performance show for it next week. We've got Champions League on Wednesday and then Man City. So will we keep our unbeaten start? That's the big question going into Saturday. But as of now, we've had a fantastic start to the season.
Yeah, it's going to be very difficult to try and manoeuvre these 2 massive games in the next week. We obviously want to get onto a firing start against Marseille in the Champions League. And this Man City game is going to be big. We're going to go into it in the same points, both undefeated, both winning 4 games and drawing 2. So it's going to be a tasty encounter up at the Etihad next weekend. But in terms of best since Poch, it's a question I asked WhatsApp group last week. No one can probably argue that the first 11 under peak Poch was better than the first 11 now. But what squad would you prefer?
It's a good question, isn't it? Are you talking about the ages they were back then? Because like Kane back then was like, you know, he had a lot more energy, but then he didn't. Maybe
he's a better player now.
Yeah, maybe he didn't have the passing, but he was a better goal scorer then. But then he had Eriksen in his prime. Although Son maybe is a better player now than he was then. Yeah, Dele Alli playing at his best.
Yeah, but for instance, like instead of like Nkudu or Ng on the bench, you got Richarlison now.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
It's also
like
true.
The bench now, as opposed to back then, is night and day.
Imagine Toby, Jan, Walker. You know,
it's
a difficult one. I think, yeah, obviously we have probably more depth now, but would you rather a better first 11 and less depth, or a better squad with the first 11 maybe not as good? I probably would choose Poch. I want the better first 11, I think.
Wow. Yeah, I'm still undecided, to be honest. I'm still undecided. Because I think that first 11 under Poch was obviously incredible. It really was incredible. I'd like to see how they would stack up against maybe like the Man Cities and Liverpools now. I still think they fall like
probably short,
6 or 7 points short.
In terms of talking about Champions League, with Conte's like record in it, do you think maybe he's got? Do you feel like he feels like he's got something to prove in the Champions League this year? Trying to get off to a good start.
He should have something to prove because I think that he hasn't won a knockout game or something crazy like that.
And even getting out of the group we can't take that for granted under Conte because he has failed at the group stage a couple times.
Yeah, I think with the group that we have now, it would be seen as a massive failure if we don't qualify from this group. But I think Conte is a man where if he can't do something, he'll see it as achievement where he does finally get over the line, and he'll definitely want to do something like that. And I think that with this season, especially when everything's so bunched together, it's going to be that even more harder. So it might look like a good, easy group on the face of things, but because everything's so clumped together, it's actually going to make it harder than it actually is. So it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out.
Definitely.
All right. Well, that is your 5 takeaways. Let me know in the comment section below if you have any thoughts regarding our takeaways. If we've missed anything out, let me know your takeaways in the comment section below. Thanks everyone for joining today. Like, subscribe and comment. And as always, come on you Spurs.